Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. This will be our final session for classrooms in Australia, New Zealand, and that area of the world. This is our 23rd episode of the world's most exciting classroom. We launched these back around November-ish, October-ish, when the ship was in that area of the world, in New Zealand, in Australia, and then making its way across the Pacific. And we thought, you know what, let's keep it going for the rest of the journey. So our plan today is to have a final wrap-up session. I can't believe it's been 2 years since the Oosterschelde and the DARWIN200 team left Plymouth in the UK. And right now we're in the Azores. So we are not very far from the UK. We're just having a week now with our young Darwin leaders who are on board the ship. They're working with conservationists in the field, creating their videos and gaining new conservation skills. And then roughly July 18th or so, we will be back in Falmouth. So next week I am leaving to head to the UK to meet up with the ship in Falmouth, and then again in London when we'll have another little celebration. So I'm going to share the map here really quickly so you can get a feel for where in the world the ship is right now. Here we go. All right, let's make that nice and full screen. There we go. So you can see where we are right now. If I back out a little bit, you can get a better view of where we've covered so far. So back in August of 2023, we left Plymouth. We sailed around the world, and this is it. This is our final stop in the Azores. And then by mid-July, not too long from now, we will be back in Falmouth, and the 2-year journey will have come to an end. So today we're going to do a few things. I have a catch-up video. We caught up with Josh and Mariana from the ship, so we'll get a little update from the Azores. I have a few fun little video clips that I want to share today as well, because it wasn't too long ago. I was in the Azores for a different function, but I have some really great clips from when I was doing some diving in the area, so we'll share some of those. And then on last week's World's Most Exciting Classroom, we had a really good friend of mine, Joe Cutler, join us from an expedition in Africa. And I want to share a little bit of that because it was really cool to visit him in the field and connect with him via Starlink. And then we have our final curiosity and experiment answers. So that's our plan for now and the rest of today's World's Most Exciting Classroom. So I think the best thing to do is get right into it and have an update from Josh. So Josh, I think many of you will recognize, one of our camera operators. He's been on the ship quite a lot. And then Mariana, who is our Explorers Club scientist right now. And she'll talk a little bit about her project, but she's been collecting eDNA, environmental DNA, trying to figure out what's living in the water, because everything that swims through the water leaves DNA behind. And if we gather up samples, filter the water, filter the DNA from the water, we can figure out what's been in those waters. We don't have to actually see it with our own eyes. And so for a large portion of the journey, we have been collecting eDNA from the surface using a bucket. But Mariana has been using a pump and sinking that pump deep into the water to get different samples. So let's catch up with Josh and Mariana right now. In a familiar face in Josh from backstage. Hey Josh, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, great to have you with us. And then we've got Mariana, who we've talked about a few times, our Explorers Club researcher. How are you doing, Mariana? All right. So we didn't hear you very well, but we're going to get Josh to exchange the headset with you when it's time to learn a little bit more. But Josh, let's get started. Last time we saw each other was Cape Town. Last time we had you on the ship was Cape Town as well. Since then, St. Helena, Ascension, 2 incredible spots. Can you tell us a bit about your time in both those islands?
Yeah, really, really nice places. Very, very strange places, in a good way, very different to a lot of places we've been already. St. Helena, very, very quiet little island. Jamestown is a really small town with only a handful of sort of restaurants and one pub, which we managed to find. but a beautiful island, an incredible range of landscapes. Sort of around the outside of the island, it's very, very brown, volcanic rock, and then you almost cross a ridge into the center of the island, and it looks like the English countryside. It's green and lush, really, really nice. And yeah, we picked up three St. Helenian Darwin leaders from there, and then sailed with them and Stuart to Ascension. And Ascension, again, really amazing, very peculiar place. It's mostly a military base. So we had to pull a load of strings and jump through a load of hoops to even be allowed to go there. But I'm really, really happy that we did end up going there. We saw some great stuff. We saw they've got a huge, huge nesting green turtle population there, and we were lucky enough to go out at night and see an adult turtle laying eggs in the nest. And then we went first thing in the morning, and we saw some turtles hatching from under the sand and making their way to the ocean. Some much more successfully than others. But yeah, they're really, really, really cool places that I never thought I'd get to see. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but I was really pleasantly surprised by both of them.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, Josh, we had Stu join us from Ascension right the day after maybe the ship had left. And we shared some of those sea turtle videos. And just absolutely incredible, from the laying of the eggs in the nest to the hatching to that gauntlet of frigate birds that they have to run. That the footage is just amazing of, this little trail of sea turtles and pick. And then, those lucky few make it to the water. But we talked to students about that. I mean, that's nature, and those frigate birds have to feed their young. And
yeah. And what a lot of people don't understand is the turtle numbers on Ascension are doing great, whereas the Ascension frigate bird numbers are actually declining. So if anything, we need to encourage the frigate birds to eat more turtles so that they can be more successful.
All right. Well, we'll pitch that to classrooms and see what they
think.
Okay. Well, you sent me, because you're obviously in Azores now. You're in Terceira, which is a beautiful island I was lucky enough to visit a couple years ago. Let's take a look at this little clip of the arrival to Terceira. Let's see, where did I put it? There it is. Here we go. All right. Very cool. That brings back some memories. Along that rock wall, I did a lot of diving. There's a group of 2 islands kind of further out where there's some good diving. And I know you guys are going to go on the weekend. You are going to see so many octopus. There are.
Awesome.
It is an octopus-rich environment. They tried to steal my GoPro on numerous occasions.
Oh, wow.
I think you're going to have some fun doing some diving.
Great. That sounds really good.
Yeah, very cool. Josh, why don't we pass the mic to Mariana for a couple minutes? We'd love to talk to her for a minute.
Yeah, we'll do.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
There we go, Mariana. We've got you now.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, well, you have one of the longest research legs on the journey, which is pretty awesome. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you're up to on the ship?
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone, my name is Mariana. I'm from Colombia. I was very lucky to be able to be part of this program and be able to join the ship and experience the living there and get to do some research, which is why I'm there. I am collecting some eDNA samples. To those who don't know what eDNA is environmental DNA. So it's all the DNA that is left behind by all animals or every living organism in the environment, so I can later collect it and analyze it and see what has been passing through those waters, which is pretty cool. And it's very interesting because it's like a very unique opportunity. Like it's not often that someone gets to jump on a ship and be able to sail across the world, like gathering these sort of samples. So it's super interesting for science to see what results we get, and yeah, super exciting.
All right, very cool, Mariana. And you're using we've been collecting eDNA on the ship, but we've been doing it with a bucket. So dropping a bucket into the
Yeah.
water and collecting samples. But you're you're going much deeper. Can you tell us a bit about how you're doing it
Yeah.
and what you're hoping to find?
Yeah, for sure. So it is a bit different, because I am using these devices that are able to go 200 meters down in the ocean, which is pretty cool. Like, being able to extract DNA so deep is not that easy, and we managed to be able to get the instruments to do this and to test this. So it's been quite a journey to figure out how to collect it. It takes a group of 6 people to for the operation to be successful. So one of us is just telling the captain where he needs to point the ship towards, so the rope is like on the right direction. Then, so I'm gonna go backwards a little bit. Like, the pufferfish is just like hanging a little bit out on a dovet, um, and it's tied to a rope. So the rope just goes down by the by the side of the boat, and it needs to be as straight as possible. So that person is in charge of telling the captain how straight is the rope, if he needs to reverse, go forward. Um, Another person then, later, to get it out, we need 5 people, because one needs to pull, the other one needs to coil the rope, the other one needs to twist the roll where we are where we are coiling the rope. It's like a bunch of stuff happening, and getting out the instrument, which is called a pufferfish, getting the sample. So it's a lot going on, and it requires a lot of hands for it to happen successfully, which I am very glad I've gotten all the help on board that I've needed.
Yeah, I think, Mariana, it was your first time using that puffer fish, that pump in the field. So did you know kind of what to expect, or has this whole thing just been an adventure trying to figure out how to get those samples from so deep?
Yeah, so absolutely my first time using them. It's been a complete adventure, because I had no idea how it was gonna turn out. The procedure, I've also had no idea how how to make it work as smoothly as possible, even like on the ship, because it's not a research vessel. So it's been also a challenge to make it happen, um, and make like the research easily happen on the boat.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge for sure. Like, on the first leg from Cape Town to Saint Helena, the samples were it was hard. Like, it has been improvements. Like, the first samples, we just threw the pufferfish with the rope on the side, and somehow with a rubber mat tried for the rope not to, like, rub off the paint of the boat. And then we were coiling up, we were not even coiling the rope up, because it's a lot of rope. Imagine 200 meters of rope. We
Yeah.
were just putting it in a bag, but then that's a lot of rope getting tangled. So it has evolved, and then we've come with the solution of using the davit, so the rope is like pushed out of the ship, and then we've got a coiler, so the rope is now nicely coiled. It's like evolved so nicely.
Well, it's a great crew on board the ship of the Oosterschelde, so I'm thrilled they've been able to help out. The places you've been able to visit, from Cape Town to St. Helena to Ascension to the Azores, I know work like this hasn't been done before, so it's very exciting that we're able to collect this science. And yeah, it must be fun for you to have this experience too. I'm sure it's unlike
Yeah.
anything you've ever done.
Yeah, totally, completely. And it's very exciting as well. Like, not only because of the science, but also being able to see these places. It's amazing.
All right. Well, before we let you guys go, I'm just going to check the chat. If you are tuning in from a classroom and you have any questions for Josh or Mariana about the Darwin 200, about kind of the time sailing, Cape Town Ascension, or St. Helena Ascension, now the Azores, or any questions about the science, we'll take a minute or two to see if there's any questions. Then we're going to jump to our next guest, who's waiting for us in Africa, in Zambia. So we're excited for that. So while we wait to see if a question or two comes in, Mariana, what's the next few days look like? What are you guys up to for the next few days?
We are exploring Terceira, and then we will be going out to Fayal, our last island in the Azores. And then hopefully I will get to do some more sampling there in Fayal.
All right, fingers crossed. We have a couple ideas to make that happen, so I hope it all works out. And then Josh, I guess Josh is right on until the UK, so hopefully I'll see you in Falmouth and then London. Oh, I think she passed you the wrong one. It doesn't have the mic.
Oh.
There we go. I was just saying, Josh, we'll see you probably in Falmouth and maybe London as well. All right, excellent. Well, I think at this stage, we'll let the two of you go. I'm sure it looks like a beautiful sunny day. I'm sure you have lots to get up to. Have fun with your diving, and keep me in the loop. I'd love to know how the last bit of research goes if you're able to get those samples.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thanks, Josh.
You,
Thanks, Mariana. Great to have you both with us.
Bye.
All right. There we go. So that was Josh, Mariana from not too long ago. They were on Terceira. Since then, the ship has sailed to Fayal, which is another island in the Azores. And then, so we have our young Darwin leaders on board, our last group of Darwin leaders, 18 to 25-year-olds, and they're working with different conservation projects. I think we have a sperm whale project. There might be a dolphin project. I think there's something on land as well. So they'll be doing their projects in the field right as we speak. And it's 50-50 if during our event tomorrow, if Josh is going to be able to join us with the North American classrooms. We'll have to see how things go out in the field with the leaders. And then Mariana mentioned hoping to catch some more samples and or take some more samples. And I just heard from her today on WhatsApp, and they were successfully able to collect some more samples for her as they were in the deep water and then as they were approaching the island of Fayal. So she's very happy she got the sample she wanted. I see a few questions here in the chat. I think I can answer most of them. So George is wondering what's the favorite DNA they found. And the truth is, George, we don't know what we have yet, because the part of the research we're doing right now is collecting the samples. So they call it a puffer fish. It's kind of a big pump. And then inside of that pump is a filter. So they put the pump in the water, they sink it to 200 meters, and then it pumps the water really fast. So I think they leave it on for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And in that time, it pulls a ton of water through the pump and it filters the DNA. It's all captured in the filter. So Mariana collects those filters, she preserves them, and then they're going to go back to the lab after the end of her sailing on the ship. And that's when they'll look and see what DNA they found. So right now, it's a mystery. We don't know what DNA is going to be in those filters. Hopefully lots of shark DNA and cool fish, maybe sea turtles, maybe whales, who knows? But we won't know that for a while. So right now it's suspense. Jazzy wants to know how they get the bucket to go deep. So when we're using the bucket for the eDNA before Mariana came on board, we just threw it overboard and it didn't matter if it went deep. We just kind of dragged it on the surface and then took a sample. Mariana is using a weight. So there's a weight on the pump that lets it sink down. She's got about 200 meters of, I think, fishing line is what she's using. And then she mentioned the davit. So on a ship, the davit is kind of like an arm that you can swing out away from the side of the ship. And then it has a pulley on the end, a wheel. And so they can run the rope through that. And then it keeps the rope from rubbing on the side of the ship. And then she said it's a big operation. It takes 5-6 people to sink it down that deep and then pull it up and coil all of the rope again. So Margot and Isaac are both kind of wondering how long she's been researching for. And the answer to that is not very long. So she's a PhD student, which means that she probably studied something like biology, maybe marine biology in a university, then probably got her master's degree, which would have taken a year or two. And so now she's working on her PhD. And so her research question is she's trying to learn more about what it takes to have a good marine protected area. So what she's trying to do, so Sid, who's asking about how many times a day she collects DNA, it depends on what she's up to. So in the open ocean, it might be every 500 to 1,000 kilometers that they'll slow the ship down, stop the ship, sink down, and take a sample. If they get over top of a seamount, which is kind of like underwater mountain, they'll try and stop over a seamount, because seamounts are areas where nutrients are pushed up. And that usually means there'll be lots of fish life around it. And if there's lots of fish life around a spot, there'll be lots of sharks. So they'll try over seamounts. And then as they approached each island, so as they approached St. Helena, Ascension, and then the Azores, they tried to take samples every roughly 100 kilometers as they approach an island, because collecting those samples and looking at the biodiversity, it can tell researchers how big marine protected areas need to be. Are there a lot of animals 200 kilometers from the island, 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 20 kilometers? How does that biodiversity change as you get closer to the islands? So those are the questions that Mariana is trying to answer with her research. And so it's been very successful. She got the sample she wanted in St. Helena, the Azores, and Ascension. So very excited for her and her research. Troy's wondering about if they had a favorite turtle. I think they saw way too many to have a favorite turtle. They got to get out on the beach and see the sea turtles laying eggs. They got to see them hatching in the mornings and watch them race to the ocean. They saw some of them get eaten by frigate birds, but that's just part of nature. Yeah, Ascension Island is where you find one of the largest nesting sites for green sea turtles. It's a very, very important site. The numbers fell in the past because they were hunted for food, especially for all the ships that would pass through. It was easy food to catch and put on board. But since they've stopped all that and good conservation, the numbers have come back to thousands of green sea turtles coming and nesting on the island each year. So it's a very important nesting spot for green sea turtles. So those are some great questions. What I want to do now is I want to share some pictures with you from when I visited Terceira. And this was a few years ago. So let me share my screen. I was there for something called the Global Exploration Summit with a group that I work a lot with as a fellow, and a board member is the Explorers Club. And if I pick the right window, there we go. That's the one I want. I should be able to share some of these with you. Here we go. Let's make them full screen. So one of the things that I did while I was there was lots of diving, because that's pretty much my favorite thing to do. So in this little video clip, this is a bunch of clips that I strung together at the beginning of each dive, when you'd be sitting on the edge of the boat and you tip over backwards into the water to start the dive. So let's check this first one out together. All right. So there is nothing better than rolling off the back of a ship or a boat, or taking a giant step off the back of a ship or a boat, or even the shore, and into the water to start a scuba dive, because you never know what you're going to see. There's always lots of great stuff to see under the water. You saw that some of those dives were at night. So it's always exciting to go in at night with a flashlight, and there's a whole new crew of nocturnal sea creatures that come out at night. Lots of octopus in Terceira. You heard me telling Josh and Mariana about it. And so here's a little video of an octopus trying to steal my GoPro camera. So let's make that a little bit bigger for you. So all the octopus have little personalities. They're all different. Some are shy, some are curious, and some will just reach out and try to steal your camera. All right, so I don't think our octopus friend was too happy to lose what they thought was going to be their new toy. But yeah, here's another little clip from going inside of a cave. We went inside this cave, and our spotlights lit up all these shrimp on the wall. If you look really carefully, you can see all the glowing eyes of the shrimp. And when that happened, the eels and these big fish, these big uh, bearded forkfish, or could see them, the shrimp, and they started trying to eat all of the shrimp. So you can see the eels zipping around trying to grab all the shrimp. It's much harder for them to see them in the dark, but when we're in that cave and we have our dive lights on, then they kind of go crazy trying to catch those shrimp along the walls, along the floor of the cave. That was pretty cool. Okay, and in this final clip I'm going to share with you, this is a little bit different. This one's on land, but they have a tradition on the island of once a month, they do running with the bulls. Now, they do it differently than they do it in Spain. In Spain, it's very different. It's lots and lots of people, lots of bulls running down the street. And then afterwards, the bull is usually killed, or a lot of them sometimes in a bullfight. Now, in Terceira, they do it very differently. They release one bull at a time. They have some people who kind of control the bull a little bit with some ropes. And then at the end, they don't hurt the bulls. They don't kill the bulls. The bulls just go back to the farm after they chase some people around the streets for a little while. So I want to show you a little bit of what it was like to be out in the streets and doing a little bit of running with the bulls. You'll see this little video clip here. Let me see if I can get it to load. There we go. You can see the whole town comes out, and they line the rooftops, and they line the windows and buildings. Each of these purple cages back there have a bull inside. These guys in white are the ones who have the ropes. They run with the bull, and they try to make sure it doesn't get too out of control. And then that firework is the signal that the first bull is coming out. All right, so that gives you a little bit of idea of what it's like underwater and a little bit of a kind of a peek at one of the traditions on Terceira. So it's usually, at least when we were there, it was one Sunday a month when they would have this event, and you can see it was very popular. People would come to watch, and yeah, it was neat to take part in something like that. So I'm going to come back from that screen share, and we have an experiment to look at. We had our rainbow rain experiment. I've got the results video here that I can share with you right now.
Welcome back, everyone. How did you get on making your very own rainbow rain? And could you work out why the oil, the water, and the food colouring didn't really mix? Well, the answer is the different densities of the liquid. Oil is the least dense of these three liquids, so it's floated on the surface. Water is denser than oil, so it's sunk down to the bottom. And the food colouring is even more dense than the water, so it's mostly sunk down to the very bottom of this beaker. Although because the food colouring is water soluble, some of it has dissolved in with the water, so it's mixed up to turn this orangey colour. Could you work out why the oil and the water and the food colouring don't mix? Well, the answer is because water is a polar molecule, whereas oil is a non-polar molecule. Polar molecules, such as water, have a positive and a negative end, and the molecules attract each other, a bit like magnets. Whereas the non-polar molecules of oil have an even charge, and the molecules are not attracted to each other. Generally speaking, polar molecules only mix with polar substances, whereas non-polar molecules only mix with other non-polar substances. That's why you can mix two different types of oil, but not the oil and the water, or the oil and the food colouring. Or why you can mix the water and the food colouring, but neither with the oil. When we added in our mixture of oil and food colouring droplets, the droplets of food colouring gently drifted down to the bottom of the layer of oil because they're more dense. And then as they emerged into the water, they could dissolve in the water, creating our rainbow rain. And that's the cause of this beautiful, colourful effect. Well, how did you get on? I'd love to see photos of your rainbow rain. Send in photos to classroom@darwin200.com for a chance to win an Amazon gift voucher prize. I hope you enjoyed creating your very own rainbow rain. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
All right, so thanks to Stu for that one last results video from the Darwin studio. And we do have a classroom to give a shout out to. Let me share my screen. Here we go. I want this window. We have to give a shout out to our crew at Naracoorte Primary in South Australia. They have done the experiment here. I know they're joining us again here today. So we just have to give them a huge shout out in general, because they have definitely been the most dedicated crew of students, hanging out with us for almost every one of our world's most exciting classroom events, taking part in our curiosities, taking part in our experiments. It's been really awesome to have you guys along with us. Thank you so much for all of these great pictures and guesses every week. So here they are preparing their jars of water, putting in some oil, mixing in some food coloring. I know they had some trial and error where maybe they went a bit too heavy on the food coloring on some of them, but that's good science. You make mistakes and you change things, you tweak things, and you try it a different way. And then as we make our way down, we can see some of that rainbow rain. So there we go. Very cool. Great to have those from our students in South Australia. And yeah, so they had some good reasoning as well. They knew that the liquid food coloring doesn't mix well with oil. Water and oil, they just don't mix. They talked a little bit about the charges of the molecules, which is great, and how like charges repel and unlike are attracted to each other. So they talked about how the oil molecules don't have a charge. They were not attracted to the water molecules. They didn't mix together. So we got to see that really cool rainbow rain. So a shout out to our crew. It's been really great to have you following along with us. So I guess we'll have to send you one more gift card before we wrap up the world's most exciting classroom. Very, very cool. All right, let's come back from that screen share and let's continue onwards. So what we're going to do now before we wrap up with our curiosity is I want to introduce you guys to, oh, I hear the kids are clapping. I saw a message in the chat. So very cool. It was great to have you hanging out with us. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite people, my friend Joe Cutler. Joe is an ichthyologist. He's a National Geographic explorer. He leads incredible expeditions throughout Africa on rivers. He paddles the entire lengths of these rivers with his teams of researchers and local scientists in places like Gabon, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, and they survey the rivers, looking at the health of the rivers. But most importantly, and what Joe loves as an ichthyologist, someone who studies fish, is they try to sample as much biodiversity as they can to figure out what is living in the waters of these African rivers, which are hardly sampled, a lot of them, hardly explored. And, you know, he brings these results back to us, finds new species, and they look at these waterways for ways to protect them. Are they overpolluted? Are these waterways in danger from dams being built, and what impact would they have? So Joe has been exploring the last few weeks with his team, the Kabompo River in Zambia. And they're almost finished. So the last 3 weeks, we've connected with him from different parts of the river. And he's talked about the expedition and the tools they're using. So I want you guys to meet Joe in this clip and learn a little bit about this really amazing expedition and the really good science that he's doing right now in Zambia on the Kabompo River. So I'm going to share that with us right now. And then we'll jump to our curiosity. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Good, Joe. It's so good to see you. I think your hair and beard have grown even more since we saw you last.
Yeah, every day they get longer.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Joe, it's great to have you. We've obviously got lots of stories to catch up with. I've been seeing little pictures and video clips from the field. We're really excited to be spending this time with you, the team, and seeing what you've been up to.
Yeah, I'm really excited to share our updates. It's been a great adventure thus far, and everybody's in good health and good spirits. So that's most important, but it's been a beautiful trip down the Kabompo River, and we've learned a lot and discovered a lot already. So I'm really excited to share.
All right, excellent. Well, Joe, give us like maybe a minute or two and tell us what the week's been like so far, and then maybe we can share a few images before we explore a little bit.
Yeah, so the week started off pretty hectic, actually. So where we launched our boats, there were a ton of big rapids, and the first day on the water was wild. I mean, we were paddling down waterfalls that were 10 feet high. We were running rapids, and the rapids that were too big, we had to portage around and carry our equipment and our boats. And there was a lot of roping boats down the rapids and slippery rocks and falls. So that was pretty hectic. On day 2 of the expedition, we actually paddled past the outflow from a large copper and nickel mine. So an area where I expected really heavy impacts, but actually the river turned out to be quite healthy. It seems like that mine is treating their effluents quite well. And then we've now entered into West Lunga National Park, and we're starting to see some wildlife. So we've seen impala and crocodiles and even a hippo today. So that's quite exciting. And of course, lots of good fish. So that's all been very interesting. And yesterday we had a bit of a scientific mystery, which is always exciting. Joe, I don't know if you want me to dive into the scientific mystery immediately or wait a little bit and then I can kind of dig into that one.
All right, Joe. Well, I think you brought it up. We don't want to keep them in suspense. So let's dive into that mystery and then we'll share a few images.
Great. Well, yeah. So we're paddling into the game management area just outside of the national park, and the ranger who we were with alerted us that there was a hot spring that would flow into the river. So, everybody's all excited about a hot spring. So we decided to paddle up and check it out. And immediately you could feel that the water was warm. It was crystal clear. Whereas the Kabompo behind me is actually relatively green and brown. We paddle up this nice, warm, hot spring, and I look into the water, and the fish look weird. They've got these big, buggy eyes, and they're swimming head down, which is an indication to me that these fish might be sick. And so we spent a lot of time sampling that little hot spring, trying to figure out why the fish in the hot spring are sick and why the fish in the main channel are not sick. And I have a hypothesis. So my hypothesis is that during the big rainy season, when all of this floods, there's not much difference in temperature between the hot spring and the main river, which allows fish to go in and live in there. But as the water level drops, those fish become isolated by the change in temperature. And then they're stuck in this little freshwater lens. And in warm water and sulfuric water, fish tend to get disease. So my hypothesis is it's related to seasonal changes in water level and water temperatures between the stream and the hot spring. Now, I'm not sure what disease it is. It could be fungal, it could be bacterial, it could be a virus. That's something that we're going to have to figure out in the lab when we get home. So always exciting to have a scientific mystery and something that I've never seen before, despite 15 years of field work in Africa.
All right, Joe. Very cool. I mean, there's anywhere you go and explore our planet, we're going to find things we don't understand yet. And you're doing exactly what a good scientist should do, forming a hypothesis. And then, maybe we'll get to the bottom of that mystery. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer. I guess we'll see. All right. I think we had a pause. We have to remember Joe's using a Starlink in Zambia. So we're just have a little bit of a pause here. Hopefully things will reconnect for us. Oh, there we go. I think we have Joe back. Joe, we got you back.
Got you back, Joe.
Perfect. All right. Well, you talked about some hairy conditions on the river. So I want to open up some photos here, and we're going to take a look at some of those conditions, what this river looked like. So this should come up now. And we can see from your last expedition in Angola, you're using a different mode of transportation. You're not using those replica dugout canoes.
Yeah, well, our first 2 days we were using those inflatable boats, and they're much better suited for whitewater, as you can see there. We've actually switched now to a different type of canoe. If I lean back, you should.
Yeah.
We're past whitewater, so that's good. And others.
All right. We lost you for a sec, Joe, but we had a good look at those more like your traditional canoes, and you're past the whitewater now. So that's good.
Yeah, we're past the whitewater for now. I think we've got a few more rapids ahead, but those we should be able to portage in the canoes.
Yeah. So a few more photos here going down some of those waterfalls you were talking about.
Yeah, we're really lucky on this expedition to have a great storyteller with us. Eric is a phenomenal videographer and photographer, so he always runs the rapids first, and then he's there with his camera ready to capture shots like this as we navigate our way down the river. And this was one of the big ones. We were getting wet up to our shoulders coming down this rapid here.
All right. And then sometimes it looks like they were probably a little too strong.
Yeah, the river dropped a lot of elevation through that stretch. So we were better off actually pushing the boats around the rocks, through the trees, getting them down safely, which is much better than swimming in those rapids, because sometimes there'll be a crocodile sitting at the bottom of the rapids waiting for an easy meal. So always a bit treacherous around the whitewater.
All right. And then, of course, sampling every day.
Yeah, we're doing a ton of science on this expedition, and all my expeditions have a big fish bent. So this is a shot of us electrofishing, and it's a really cool way to catch fish. And we have been catching a lot of very All right, got you back.
All
I was
right.
just saying, Joe, when we're done going through the photos, I've actually got some live fish to show off just now.
Yeah, we'll be there shortly. So a little hygiene on the river, maybe cooling off in this
Yeah,
photo.
actually, yeah, you know what's funny? I actually took my first bath of the expedition today. So, I've rinsed my face a few times, but today I actually got out a bar of soap and washed my clothing and my body. I always prioritize research and fish sampling over getting clean. So that usually falls to the bottom of the list of my to-do list.
All right. Well, nice of you to get nice and cleaned up for us today, Joe. Campsites. I mean, can't beat these views waking up like this.
Yeah, I always try to make my tent as close to the water as possible. I want to be so close that if I step out my front door, I could fall into the river. It allows me to listen to the catfish feeding at night, hear the frogs, hear the birds. I just love the sounds of the river. And it's such a treat to be able to sleep waterfront every night.
All right. This I thought was a cool picture. This is a cool looking spider.
Yeah, it's not just the big things that fascinate me. I love the invertebrates. So every now and again, you get the chance to really crawl around in the trees and crawl around in the grasses and see incredible things like this orb weaver spider. Um, I also am a big fan of the mantises. So every time I see a mantis, I'll grab it and I'll put it on my hat.
All right. You were just telling us how you grab the mantis and put them on your hat. I saw one of those pictures from Angola in the WhatsApp
Yeah.
stream.
It's always nice to have a friend on the expedition. And I really like the mantises because they eat mosquitoes. So the more mantis that are around, the fewer mosquito bites you get.
All right. That sounds pretty good. And then I like this shot too, kind of a action shot hiking as the sun's going down. Fishnet ready to go.
Yeah, this was us headed out to the source Kabompo River. So, the source area is so equipment. We brought everything that we needed to do the research. So our nets, our drones, our water quality probes, two line for this river.
Okay. And then our aquariums. I think what I like the most, well, I mean, I like a lot of things about the expedition, but I love that you brought this little photo aquarium with you so that you can show people who live around the river what the biodiversity is like. All right. I think we'll have to be a little bit patient today. The Starlink's really acting
We're in
up.
the field. No, it's all
That's
good.
okay. We're in the field. All right, we got you back, Joe. We are just talking about showing the biodiversity to those who live along the river and maybe haven't seen it before.
Ooh. Oh, it's back now.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Yeah, the photo aquarium is such a treat because people here, everybody fishes. Everybody is used to the fish, but the local Zambians will probably have one name for a whole group of fish. So every minnow is just one thing. So when you get the photo aquarium out, you can really see the details and the distinctions between some of these fish. And I love it. We almost always, when we're sampling fish, we've got a crowd of people around us. And, I'll be learning the names in the local dialects, like in Lunda, but I'll also be sharing some of the common names and the scientific names. and just kind of sharing my enthusiasm for the fish with anybody who's willing to listen.
All right. We're going to leave it there with some of those photos, Joe. And, you know, I know you have a little bit of stuff to show us today, so I'm going to make you nice and full screen.
Great. Well, you know, I wanted to show you all a bit of my sampling kit for fishes. So I've brought some of it down and laid it out on the beach. So let me see. Right here, I've got my fish trap. So I put this out every single night at every site. Fish will swim inside of it during the night, and then in the morning we get to check them out. I have right here, I've got what's called a fyke net. And it's kind of a combination of like a long wall and then a series of chambers. And the fish will swim into those chambers and also get stuck, and then we can sample them in the morning. I've got my handy dandy cast net here. And this is one of my favorite ways to sample. It's got a bunch of weights at the bottom, and I can use it to throw it out in the water into an open space like this, and I can catch a bunch of fish. And then my other major technique of fishing is with a dip net. So in shallow water or on the shallow banks, I can use this to catch small fish. And a lot of the diversity are small fish. So I've got my little photo aquarium here right now, and you can see this would be a typical catch. And when you really look at them, they all look pretty similar, but actually you'll start to notice some distinctive characteristics. And it might surprise you when I say that there are actually 3 species of minnow in this photo aquarium right now. And they're distinguished based on their color patterns, their body shape, and their size. So I've got 3 species of minnow all caught in the same net. I scooped them all at one moment, and here we go. This is a smattering of the diversity in the Kabompo River. Now, I know that not everyone is excited about small fish, so I've got a big fish to show off here. I can't claim that I caught it. One of my colleagues caught it. But let me grab this fish here. Oh, this is a tigerfish. And it's named a tigerfish because of those teeth. And it's an impressive predator. So this is the top predator in the Kabompo River system other than the crocodiles. And so we've got this fish. It's probably 5 or 6 kg fish. So, you know, a 10 or 12 pound fish. And it's going to be a feast for dinner tonight, which is a real treat after eating rice and beans for the last week. So those are a few of my show and tell moments. You know, with the excitement around that fish, I've got a few team members here hoping for one more, and we've got a crowd of rangers around all excited to have a big meal tonight. So that's one of the great things out on the river. You never know what you're going to discover or run into or encounter, and it's really wonderful to share experiences and to share a good meal with friends and with strangers alike. So that's a bit of my fish sampling kit, and we've already caught 14 species of fish at this site today.
Okay, there we go. So that is our last trip into the field to hang out with a speaker. So Joe's just wrapping that expedition. He's been out in the field for about 3 weeks now. Before that, he was out in the field for over a month on the Quito River in Angola. So he's looking forward to getting back home for a little bit after those 2 big expeditions back to back. I can see some questions already about the tigerfish, which was really, really cool. You saw the teeth on that tigerfish. I think the one that they had was a pretty big example. I think they can get a little bit bigger. Maybe if you stretched out your arm about as long as your arm, that's probably about how long they can get. What's the biggest fish that's been caught on the expedition? That's Eddie. And I think for sure on this current expedition, it would be those tigerfish that they were catching. And then it was a nice thing to catch for them because a lot of the food that they have is rice and beans, things that are easy to carry with them. So to get a little bit of meat, a little bit of protein, I think is always really exciting for them. So I think they love when they catch those fish. Someone's wondering if people worry about the tigerfish. And I think for the most part, I don't think they really bother people that much. It's very rare. I think more likely if you had something like a bracelet on or your watch that kind of caught the sun, and that looks like the scales of a fish flashing in the water, I think those are the times when people end up getting bitten by something like a tigerfish. So they wouldn't look to bite you, but if they saw that flash in the water, they might, because they think you're a fish. It looks like the scales of a fish catching the sunlight. And looking into it a little bit deeper, I think they can grow to be about 1.5 meters. So if you have a meter or a yardstick in your classroom, picture one of those and then add another half. And that's about how big they can get, some of the really big full-grown ones. Let's see, is there any other ones I can catch? What's the sweetest fish? Charlie, the answer I think Joe would say is every fish he catches gets him pretty excited. They're using new technology, a backpack electrofisher. So it's smaller than they've ever been before. You can put it on your back. When you put it in the water, it makes a little electric charge in the water. And the fish that are nearby within range get stunned and float to the surface. And then it makes it really easy to catch the fish. And then they can sample them, collect some of the specimens that they bring back to the museums, and then see what different species live in different habitats of the river. Charles, I don't know how that tigerfish would have been. I think if they can get to about 1.5 meters, that one still had lots of growing to do. So my guess, if I had to just guess how old that tigerfish is, maybe 1.5 to 2 years old. But I don't know how long the tigerfish can live for. All right. We have to check out the answer to one final curiosity of the week. This was a tricky one. So I am going to get this file ready here. And I'm looking for the one called answer. There it is. Let's take a look at the final curiosity.
Last week, I asked you to try and identify this beautiful but very strange mineral. Could you work out what this is? Well, a lot of you sent in guesses, and quite a few of you got it correct. It's known as pyrolusite. It's actually a form of manganese dioxide. It occurs in many different forms, but this incredible radial crystal structure is by far the most beautiful. It's been used by people for thousands of years. In fact, its name comes from the Greek pyro for fire and lucite meaning to wash. This is because this mineral was used to wash away or remove the colour from glass in ancient history. But its uses go way, way further back than that. For many thousands of years, blocks of pyrolusite were even found in the graves of Neanderthals. And it's thought these beautiful crystals, this interesting mineral, had a different ritualistic or perhaps even spiritual purpose for the Neanderthals. Well, regardless of these purposes, these beautiful radial crystals are some of the most striking of all mineral formations. Did you correctly identify this beautiful mineral as pyrolusite? This was a very difficult curiosity of the week, so well done if you correctly identified this.
Okay, we had tons of guesses. We had lots of good guesses. We had some incorrect guesses. We had lots of correct guesses. And so this week, our curiosity, we had to do a draw for this week because we had a few classrooms who had the right answer. And I think this might be our first classroom from Tasmania that we're sending a gift card to for the curiosity of the week. But our group in Launceston, we had some third graders who sent in the correct answer, Miss Miller's class. So I am going to make sure we have your email and we're going to send you a gift card. So there we are. We are at that time. We have actually run over a little bit today. We had so much to pack in with one more message from the ship. We saw some cool things in Terceira and the Azores. We had Joe talk to us about an epic expedition that's going on right now in Africa, and a final answer to an experiment and a curiosity. A huge shout out to all of the classrooms who have joined us live, or the many, many more who have tuned into the recordings of our 23 World's Most Exciting Classroom Sessions geared to your part of the world. Next week, I will be in the UK. I will definitely take some video, and I will definitely share some video with your classroom so you can check out what it was like to be on the ship at the end of the journey back in the UK. The last thing we have to do is thank our partners, our supporters, our sponsors, without whom we wouldn't have been able to sail around the world, bring researchers on, bring young Darwin leaders to learn new conservation skills, and we wouldn't have hosted the world's most exciting classroom event. Between all the events that we've done for both sides of the world, as well as in the field, it's been well over 125, 130 of these live events that we have done for Classroom. So a huge shout out to those sponsors and supporters, and a huge shout out to all of the students in the classrooms. And we will send you an update in the next week or so. We're going to sign off for now. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. And yeah, we'll have a little update for you before the end. Thanks, everyone.